If a royal dynasty ever had a perfect foundation for its future, it was in the family of Prince Charles and Princess Diana. Through divorce and Diana's tragic death, only the three princes remain. Diana's brave sons have inherited their mother's mantle, along with her popularity. Both boys now receive the rapturous welcome of her heyday. Sadly, William and Harry now face their destiny without their mother's guidance. Spring 1998, a visit to Canada and a time to laugh again. This was the first appearance of the Wales trio. They had found light after the awful darkness of Diana's death. It was a time for relaxation as they skied the Canadian Rocky Mountains. Charles and Sons were the latest family firm. William, who once hated photo calls, now bantered with reporters.
Harry is the best skier, is that true?
I don't know about that. We might have a family argument.
At Balmoral in August 1997, on another photo call, just prior to their mother's death, the differences between the two boys' personalities were emerging. Harry was the more impulsive, William already a cautious young man. The living image of his mother, he faces a lifetime of duty.
For William, whatever happens to the monarchy, life is always going to be like it is for his mother. Hounded, harassed, pursued, privately as well as publicly. His misfortune as well as his good fortune being that he looks rather like her, and he's her legacy made flesh.
William was already on the threshold of manhood, but Diana's death has brought out qualities of leadership and responsibility in him.
He has become a very strong young man. He was always strong, much stronger than his father, who is rather weak and who tends to blame other people for things that go wrong in his life. William was strong of mind when he was a boy, perhaps even a bit willful. Since his mother died, and particularly with Harry to look after, to oversee, he's assumed an importance which he wears very well. I mean, he happens to be, tall, he's a good-looking chap, very bright. But he changed in becoming a more independent boy, in taking control, in a sense, of the situation. And he was crucial, of course, to Harry's stability.
Shortly after Diana's death, Charles took Prince Harry to South Africa. In Johannesburg, they attended a Spice Girls concert. Harry relished the attention they gave him. It was a time to laugh and smile again, and to let his father join in the fun. South Africa was a long way from Britain in climate and culture. The trip was an opportunity for father and son to relax in a different atmosphere. The tour helped Harry create a geographical and emotional distance from the traumatic events since his mother's death.
He's become far more reflective. There are long periods, I understand, where he is very sort of contemplative in a way that he wasn't before. Well, he's only a young boy. I think all of us who have families and maybe have lost someone close can understand what may be going through his thoughts, disappointments. He must have periods of unhappiness, but he is quieter and more contemplative than he was before she died.
Like William, Harry can never forget the good times they had with their mother. She introduced them to new people, exciting places, and fresh adventures. A visit to watch a Welsh rugby match, and a chance to drive an army tank in Germany were part of Harry's upbringing. She never wanted second born to mean second best.
In a conversation I had with the princess not long before she died in Kensington Palace, she did bring up the question of her concerns for Harry, in that William would always be the one, the centre stage one who was going to be king. She was worried For instance, rather touchingly, I thought that William would get all the girls. All the girls would go for wills, and poor Harry, who's only a couple of years younger, would be left out. And so she was already kind of taking steps to try and make sure that they were treated equally, even though in royal standing terms, William would always be number one.
Although she would have loved a daughter, Diana threw herself enthusiastically into the role of mother of 2 lively boys. She provided them with the thrills and spills that other children enjoyed. This was nothing like Charles's childhood. They raced each other in Colorado in July 1995 and shot down the slides at Thorpe Park another year. Distant summers of their past with their memories of a gentle and affectionate mother will always be in their hearts. But Diana was accused of upstaging her estranged husband and of spoiling her sons with too many lavish foreign holidays.
In a way, perhaps she spoiled them with treats. I don't think you can spoil children with too much love and attention. I think that's a myth. But I found that she didn't spoil them in terms of being a sensible mother. She was very good at nagging them about their manners. And as a result, they're both beautifully mannered boys.
William will be the next Prince of Wales, and Diana knew she had to prepare him for the role. In March 1990, St. David's Day, she took him to Wales to meet people from the Principality. He was only 7 years old. As a mother, Diana was very particular about certain things.
Diana was fanatically tidy, and so she was always reminding them to pick up things. That's the sort of things that mothers do. I mean, that's normal. To have somebody come along and nag you, I think is keeping you in touch with reality. You know, life is not easy, and you have to learn to look after yourself, and I think she gave a lot of that. She was a very well-balanced mother in that sense.
Diana got involved in many humanitarian causes. In 1991, accompanied by her friend Baroness Margaret Jay, she not only challenged prejudice views about AIDS, but broke the mould of traditional royal speeches.
Publicity about HIV seems to veer between sex and death horror stories at one extreme to complacency at the other. But behind this confused picture lies the reality of a growing worldwide affliction and untold private suffering. HIV does not make people dangerous to know, so you can shake their hands and give them a hug. Heaven knows they need it.
In one handshake, Diana dispelled the myth that touching transfers the virus. She made many visits to AIDS centres such as this hospice, with its emphasis on living. Patients welcomed her. On several private occasions, Diana took her sons along with her.
Harry was only 9 years old when he visited Adrian Moore Jackson, who was dying of AIDS. He and William went to his flat to see him. This could never have happened in previous generations. They stayed, talked, and they learned from this. They were being shown things, they were being told things, they were being introduced to people. They were sitting on the beds of patients, playing little games with them. And they were being with AIDS patients and others. And it's a wonderful legacy that Diana led. And if this drawbridge between the 20th century and the millennium was her, through the children.
Diana also visited hostels for the homeless, such as Centrepoint in London, and talked to the occupants about their problems. She wanted William and Harry to have a social conscience and not lose sight of real life outside palace walls. They visited Centrepoint with her, and William took an early interest in her work for the underprivileged.
She was concerned that they weren't going to grow up spoiled or sort of too much within that tradition. And she used to love taking them to see, the homeless and wear the jeans and just, go down to brass tacks. I mean, she was terribly concerned that they should see that side of life.
She desperately wanted to get them away from the life of privilege which she knew that they were destined to lead for the rest of their lives. She feared they would grow up like Prince Charles had grown up.
She didn't want them to see reality through the polished windows of a passing limousine. She wanted them to know it as she knew it.
Highgrove was the Wales family's country home. Holidays were spent at the Spanish royals' summer palace. They watched polo matches with their mother. And there was real excitement when Prince Charles won a trophy. Unlike earlier generations of royal heirs, William and Harry were not educated by a palace governess. They attended kindergarten and mixed with other children. Then they went to Weatherby's, a London day school. Both boys enjoyed games. And their mother joined in too. The reward of a loving hug made it all worthwhile.
Hugging has no harmful side effects. If we all play our part in making our children feel valued, the result will be tremendous. There are potential huggers in every household.
Displays of affection were absent in Prince Charles's childhood. Often separated for months from his mother, he still had to wait his turn for a brief and cool reunion. There could be no greater contrast with Diana. After a brief Canadian tour, she scooped her children into her arms. Charles, too, was far more tactile than his parents had been with him. Diana wanted William and Harry to share the experiences other children enjoyed. While Diana believed it was essential for William and Harry to sample life outside castles and palaces, she was criticised for straying too far from traditional patterns of raising royal children.
She was determined that her boys would not grow up like that. She wanted to keep their feet on the ground, so she used to take them to supermarkets, go shopping, take them to the movies, queue up at McDonald's and at fun fair, leisure parks, all in a desperate attempt to give them some experience of the real world.
Sometimes the real world became impossible for Diana and her children. They were simply too famous. In 1993, a private visit to Disney World in Florida was ruined by other tourists who took pictures and made an amateur video of the royal group. Diana resented these intrusions. Even on public engagement, she hated having to run the gauntlet of pushing photographers who closed in on her. She felt hunted and hounded. Scenes like this seem a terrible omen of her last hours. Above all, Diana loathed the media scrum and the battles with paparazzi when she was out with her sons. The constant attention upset them.
I remember a terrible fight in the street in Austria when William and Harry were caught right in the middle of it. Two Italian paparazzi tried to, really get literally right up their noses. It was ridiculous. They're trying to take pictures from this sort of distance. And Diana objected and got very upset, and her policeman rugby tackled one of the photographers to the ground. Well, the two boys were standing there watching all this, and they became very concerned, and Diana had to hurry them away back to their hotel. Incidents like that, and there have been so many of them, have really traumatized William. Harry doesn't suffer so much. Harry's rather thick-skinned. He's very like his mother. He quite revels in the spotlight and makes jokes about it.
Bodyguards always accompanied the boys on trips, but they were unable to prevent the harassment they received from the paparazzi and sometimes from the public. Unlike other children, William and Harry were always on show. Lines of holidaymakers would stare as if they were exhibits in a zoo. Harry felt uncomfortable. William grew to loathe cameras and would even hide from prying lenses.
William's problems with cameramen are so bad now that they've become a serious worry to the Queen. He doesn't like the spotlight, hates publicity, hates facing cameramen, And I think that's largely because he saw his mother involved in so many scuffles in the street. I remember talking to Diana about this once and saying, you know, she said, oh, William doesn't like being photographed. And I said, well, I'm sorry, it goes with the job. If you're going to be a king, you've got to be photographed. She said, oh, you're very hard. And I said, well, I think I'm just being realistic. You know, the sooner William gets accustomed to photographers, the better it's going to be easier for William.
Hello.
Diana tried to protect her children from press intrusion, sometimes by taking direct action.
Excuse me. As a parent, could I ask you to respect my children's space?
Yes, no problem at all.
Because I brought the children out here for a holiday.
William doesn't like the cameras because he saw the appalling things it did to his mother. You know, so much is said about Diana and photographers, about photo opportunities being created out of nothing so that she could be photographed. The reality is that she hated being pursued by cameras.
This incident at Malaga Airport in 1994 shows the type of hounding that Diana resented and William hated.
William saw this. He sympathized with his mother. He even said to her once, I'll be a policeman when I grow up and I'll look after you. So, again, we are talking here about the teachings of a child. And when a child sees and feels something that powerful when they're young, as William did, it's not a surprise to me that he has grown up feeling an antagonism towards lenses which are looking at him. Hopefully he'll get over it. After all, you know, as an adolescent in moving into manhood, he's going through that rather difficult period. But he does hate cameras. He's going to have to get used to them. They're always going to be there.
On state and ceremonial occasions, William and Harry accepted they would be on display. They appeared on Buckingham Palace balcony each June to watch Trooping the Colour with the rest of the royal family. In 1990, they watched the ceremony that commemorated the Battle of Britain, a lengthier test of endurance for the royal children. Honouring the brave was very important to the Queen. Younger royals found such occasions boring. 6-year-old Harry and his 2-year-old cousin Princess Beatrice performed an impromptu quick step. Diana had to remind him that he was in public. William copied his older cousins, Princess Anne's daughter Zara and her son Peter, who had been drilled in royal etiquette early in life. After church at Easter and Christmas, the royal family were on parade for the crowds and the cameras. Diana felt under pressure to make her lively young boys conform to the standards of the senior royals. As heirs to the throne, she was training William and Harry for public service, showing them how to greet people who had waited hours in the cold to see them. Diana's special touch with ordinary people was a gift her sons have inherited each in his own way. Harry grew into an impish, adorable child. William grew conscious of his special destiny and was more reserved. There were family examples of dedication to the monarchy all around him. In October 1991, when William was 9 and Harry 7, they accompanied their parents on a visit to Canada, their first official visit as a family. Diana had taken the lead in preparing them for this first formal introduction to representing the monarchy abroad. She had no idea that this training would help them respond to public sympathy after her death. Despite images of unity, Charles was distant from his family. Diana and her boys were often apart from him. She tried to make up for his absences.
Diana really loved her boys. Some people say she almost smothered them when they were little. But Because her marriage wasn't working, she put all her emotions and love into those two children. It's a very common thing. And she used to take them into bed with her, and she'd hug them and kiss them, and they'd sit and watch television with her. And if they were ill, she would go into hospital with them. I mean, she really was a very good mother. And anyone else that intruded on her space as a mother, she didn't like.
As they sailed from Canada on the royal yacht Britannia, the Prince and Princess of Wales were visibly ill at ease. Aboard Britannia 6 years earlier, the story appeared to be a happier one.
When she started to speak with us about her problems in the marriage, I think one of the big blow-ups when Prince Harry was born, because obviously I sent her flowers and many of the friends, and then I said to her once, how happy you must both be, and she said, can you believe it? He was very disappointed with when Harry born, and because he wanted a girl. And we all started to smell that something was going wrong, and then eventually everything came out.
William and Harry were often formal with Charles and more casual with Diana. They learned to balance the divided lives and different lifestyles of their parents.
Especially at the time of the separation and the divorce, I think as all children do, not wanting to alienate either side. And okay, in some respects they were slightly the go-betweens, and yet they always were very careful not to upset Diana by mentioning things they knew would upset her, and they always said, Daddy loves you.
William grew attuned to Diana's emotions amid the turmoil of his parents' disintegrating marriage. As years went by, he became her confidant and often comforted her in her distress.
On one famous occasion when she was weeping and had retreated to her bathroom after an argument with Charles. Arguments, incidentally, they desperately tried to keep away from the children, as all parents would, and they were no different from anyone else in this respect. He memorably stood at the door, heard her crying, and shoved tissues under the door for her to wipe her eyes. And he was about 9 at the time. I mean, it's the most poignant thing. It is awful. We all know that children suffer most in these circumstances.
Oh no. Oh, that's better not.
Despite a painful broken arm in 1990, Charles played with young Harry at Highgrove, but he and Diana were now living separate lives. She had secretly cooperated with a biography that in 1992 shook the royal world. She allowed her friends to take the blame, but Charles knew she had betrayed him. Diana would never be forgiven.
He thought it was despicable what Diana did, but I think in a way he understood why she did it. She felt, I'm surrounded by enemies, I'm a lone woman fighting the establishment, I've got to use every trick in the book, and she did.
Diana kept up the pretense, continuing to appear with the royal family on special occasions. It was 3 years before she admitted the truth in a controversial television interview that finally resulted in her divorce.
She wasn't thinking about her children, particularly when she did that Panorama interview. That could only be damaging to the boys. I think at the time she wasn't aware of what she was doing. She would never have deliberately harmed them. But just the same, it was a mistake, and it was something she said she regretted later.
Diana didn't stay silent for a particular reason. She feared that if she remained silent, she would ultimately lose the children. Her outburst was in order to keep the children, and she took a calculated risk. I think the risk has been proven on all sides to have been the right one, in the sense that the kids have come through it pretty well. They're two fine boys, and for them to be fine boys still is enormously to their credit.
Among the royal family are several male role models for William and Harry to look up to. Perhaps the best is Princess Anne's son Peter, a handsome rugby player now studying sports science at university.
They really look up to him as a hero, as an elder brother, and William in particular, and to a certain extent Harry, get on very well with Peter Phillips. And whenever they go to Balmoral, they like Peter Phillips to be there when he can be, just because he's like the big brother that they didn't have, that Wills didn't have, and they look up to him.
Diana was a mother to be proud of. She gave her boys unquestioning love and attention, whatever the problems in her personal life or the demands of her public role. While there were many wonderful trips to expensive locations, she also taught them about the humanitarian causes she campaigned for, including AIDS, leprosy, cancer, and landmine victims. Diana's enemies ridiculed her good intentions, whether in her charity work or with her children. She was frequently accused of courting the media and rivaling her husband with photo opportunities of herself as the better parent.
If they competed for the love of their children, it was like all divorced parents. When holidays come around, they both try to give them great treats. Well, for instance, you know, that is the fantastic advantage of having a broken home. You get 2 lots of presents at Christmas, you get 2 lots of holidays, so it's not all bad.
As her marriage broke up, William and Harry became Diana's male escorts for some evening engagements. She took William to Wimbledon to see Steffi Graf become ladies' single champion in 1991. And to Cardiff, the Welsh capital, in 1993. But William was happiest in the seclusion of the royal estates.
She knew that the best time William had was when he was away from London, away from the paparazzi, on the royal estates where he could be shielded from all the publicity. And she knows, or she knew, that he liked things like shooting and riding and all the country he-man pursuits that royal men enjoy, and that she couldn't provide, living in an apartment which is virtually like a flat in London, with no garden to speak of. So they were much better off with their father, and she accepted that.
Diana often took her boys out of London to see close friends such as Lady Annabel Goldsmith at her large home in nearby Richmond.
There were various homes, just using Annabel Goldsmith's home as an example. They would phone up and say, I mean, she would phone up and say, oh, do we fancy coming down for a Sunday lunch? We've got about 10 or 12 people coming with their, you know, with their children. Oh, Diana would love that. Great, get in the car, let's go. And they had a great time there. The boys fooled around with the other boys, who were all the children who were and go roughly the same sort of age. And it was just a fun Sunday lunch.
That's a good positioning from Prince Charles. He leads out, he picks up.
Polo is a game for right-handed players like Charles. William is left-handed and cannot follow in his father's sporting tradition. While his elder son excels at swimming, as Diana did, Charles has high hopes for Harry.
Harry is quite sporty, and I think it's very likely that if he's right-handed, he'll play polo, perhaps because his father will like him to play polo. Charles is a man who likes family traditions to go on.
On the royal estates, traditions involve blood sports.
William especially is like his father in liking field sports. He particularly likes shooting. He shoots a lot. Charles shoots a lot. It's something that Diana was not partial to. And it's one of the things that made William rather more like his father inwardly than like his mother.
Like all the Queen's grandchildren, William and Harry are the products of a broken home. The sad breakdown of their parents' marriage and subsequent divorce was played out in front of the world's press.
You have to remember, because of their tender years, that actually half their lives had been blighted by the public warfare of their parents' very acrimonious divorce. It's tough enough for any kids if their parents split up at that age, but in the case of William and Harry, there was all sorts of public warfare, the dirty linen being hung out a bit too much, friends of Prince Charles, friends of Diana, mutual insults flying in the national press. The schools can say that they hid the newspapers from these boys, but we all know that other school children can be pretty cruel, and it's not always possible to do that. I think both parents, in their different ways, tried to nurse them through each stage, and we know that Diana kept going down to these schools to tell them what was going to happen next before they read it in the papers. But I think it's bound to have left scars on both of them. And it would be surprising if William and Harry, in their different ways, didn't grow up without certain emotional problems that any children who'd been through that at that age would have.
Out-of-school time was divided between both parents. On holiday at Closters in 1995, William, Harry and Charles made the best of their time together. They were told that peace and relative privacy could be traded for an organised photo call. Their younger cousins, Beatrice, 6, and Eugenie, 4, were also holidaying at the same resort and joined them. Little Eugenie was out of her depth, and 12-year-old William showed the gallantry and leadership that made both his parents so proud of him. The presence of the little girls, the daughters of the Duke and Duchess of York, seemed to make William more relaxed as they faced a barrage of pressmen. He answered their questions with congenial professionalism.
Could you look at this camera, please?
Who's the best skier of all forward?
Well, improving is very good.
They're improving?
Very good skiers.
Richard, sorry, could you ask round him? Do you hope to have a ski together at some stage?
Yes, it'll be good fun. It'll be very good. Enjoy it.
One more minute and we'll call it off. Thanks.
Can you look this way?
2 girls. Just put the skis to one side just for a moment. Can you just bend down? That's it. Nice and close together if you can, please. 2 girls.
Victory in Japan was commemorated in 1995, one of several occasions when William and Harry had to behave like adults. To please the Queen, they joined their estranged parents in a show of royal unity. Harry, nearly 10, found it difficult to concentrate and looked to his parents and older brother for guidance. William, 13, had already learned to cope with the pomp and pageantry that marks so many royal occasions. Just 2 years later, William and Harry would have to cope with the untimely death of their mother. After 5 years at boarding school, William started Eton College in September 1995. Eton was chosen for its close proximity to London and Windsor Castle. Charles refused to send him to the Scottish school Gordonston, where he himself had been very unhappy as a student. Eton had educated Diana's father and brother. Now the school will help prepare both William and Harry for the challenges of a monarchy into the new millennium. Diana sought William's approval before sending him there.
She treated him like a grown-up, which is what every teenager longs for. She'd ask his advice, say, well, William, what do you think about this? Should I do this or shouldn't I? Now, that is very flattering. And she didn't tell him what to do. I mean, Prince Charles is exactly the same. I've heard this for several years now, that whenever they decide that they're going to go somewhere or do something, or there's going to be a photo call, they say, well, we were thinking of doing this, what do you think, William? And they also ask Harry. And they ask for their input.
Diana identified in William personal qualities lacking in his father. While she actively groomed her elder son to be king, she also shared many private confidences with him.
She did drop an incredible amount of responsibility on William's very slim young shoulders. He was, barely 10 years old when she started revealing how she felt in front of him. And I think as a result, William's matured very fast. He's much more mature than most boys of 15. But that's also perhaps because of the daunting burden that lies ahead of him, the monarchy. And when you're 15, you might want to be a rock star or a nuclear physicist. You don't want your life mapped out for you. Kids of that age want to feel free. All their school friends are talking about, I'm going to backpack around Africa or something, and he doesn't have that choice. It's very sad. I've heard Prince Charles talk about how awful it is to have your whole life mapped out for you, and I know William's a very sensitive boy, and he'll have absorbed a lot of that and think, oh, I've got the same fate awaits me, sitting around waiting for my parent to die so I can become king.
William's confirmation service in March 1997 was the last time the 4 members of the Wales family were seen together in public. Diana and Charles had agreed to act in harmony for the sake of their children, who had suffered from their parents' all-too-public divorce. By this time, Diana had resolved to leave behind the bitterness of the past and had forged a new friendship with her former husband. With her generous divorce settlement, she was seeking an independent life. She felt relaxed enough to kiss Charles goodbye at William's speech day in May 1997. They would never be seen in public again together. While holidaying in the south of France in summer 1997, Diana fell in love with Dodi Fayed.
It's been reported that when the first pictures of Diana and Dodi in that sizzling embrace in the Mediterranean were appearing in the press, Diana rang William and warned him, tipped him off that the pictures are about to appear. And his reaction was fine. He just said, "Look, Mum, whatever makes you happy." He was called a mum. And, you know, he was fine about it. He knew Dodi. He'd met him on the holiday they all shared in the middle of July.
Diana and Dodi had 2 further holidays without her boys. On the warm Mediterranean Sea, she made plans for a bright new future, perhaps even for marriage.
Diana would have never married Dodi without the consentment of the 2 children, and Prince William more than that, because she always said that Prince William was her anchor, and she admired the boy enormously.
They cruised the Mediterranean aboard the luxurious yacht Johnny Carl. William and Harry witnessed Diana's budding romance.
But the children, don't forget, she took them on the boat, and they had a wonderful time. Not probably William. William was not so happy, but the little one was thrilled, all the games, all the thing. And it was probably to accustom them to the situation. And when I asked her, "Are you going to marry him? And what's your children's reaction?" she said, "Elsa, I rang up William." So it was the answer. And he said, "Mommy, I want you to be happy."
My understanding is that they felt that their mother was being claimed rather too much before their very eyes. It may well be that they'd never been up close with their mother and a romantic friend before in the way they were on holiday with Diana and Dodi in Saint-Tropez. So it may be that they were just seeing something that, because their father is still very much alive and they're very fond of their father, they found rather uncomfortable, made them feel rather uncomfortable. But they did not like him very much. That is what the people close to them say, and that is what I believe.
On the last Saturday in August, Diana and Dodi had dinner together at the Paris Ritz. Shortly after midnight, they left to make the brief journey to Dodi's apartment, where he had a diamond ring awaiting his princess. Pursued by paparazzi and driven too fast, they crashed in a Paris underpass. Diana died in hospital. In the new life she was embracing, she had exorcised the previous one and dismissed its wiser safety precautions.
Had she been with the boys, of course, she would have been completely differently protected. She would have had a royal protection driver, very well trained by police methods. She would have had probably a follow-up car, making sure that the paparazzi were at a distance. But of course, one part of her deliberately didn't want that, and she did very much feel liberated from many of those constraints in her private life when she gave up being Her Royal Highness and having the trappings of royalty. So, as on many things, she herself was ambivalent. There were moments, obviously, when it would have been very helpful to have proper police protection, but there were other moments when she really wanted to escape, and I suspect that the second one, when she wanted to escape, were more important than the first.
Millions of flowers were left outside Kensington Palace, Diana's London home. On the evening before her funeral, William and Harry went there with their father to see these touching tributes. They were amazingly composed and seemed to draw strength, as their mother had, from the love of ordinary people. Diana never knew how well she had prepared her courageous sons in dealing with the public at such a difficult time. Bravely, they thanked the crowd.
Charles. Shut up. Charles.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
William. William.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Oh, hold on.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
William, we love you. The thought of present
Love you!
These brave boys won the admiration of their own family and the rest of the world. Diana's brother, Earl Spencer, became a prominent figure after her death. He spoke from his South African home of the sister he had lost and of her grieving family.
Good morning. I'm just going to read this statement. All those who've come into contact with Diana, particularly over the past 17 years, will share my family's grief. She was unique. She understood the most precious needs of human beings, particularly those that suffered. And her vibrancy and sparkle, combined with a very real sense of duty, are now gone forever. It is heartbreaking to lose such a human being, especially when she was only 36. Above all, my thoughts are with William and Harry, and with my mother and two sisters, who are showing tremendous bravery in the face of senseless tragedy. I would ask you please, at this time, to respect the fact that Diana was part of a family, and amongst the general mourning at her death, realise that we too need space to pay our final respects to our own flesh and blood. For that, we will need privacy. Finally, the one consolation is that Diana is now in a place where no human being can ever touch her again. I pray that she rests in peace.
The night before Diana's funeral, William and Harry had prayed beside her coffin with their family and with leaders of the Landmine Survivors Network with whom she had recently visited Bosnia. William and Harry chose to walk behind the coffin. Earl Spencer commented, "My admiration for those boys is beyond bounds. It was the most amazing display of courage I'll ever see." In his eulogy to Diana from Westminster Abbey, he swore the Spencer family would protect them.
And the sparkle in those unforgettable eyes, your boundless energy.
He pledged that Diana's blood family would continue the way she was rearing her sons, so that they were not simply immersed in duty and tradition.
Bearing in mind what Earl Spencer said at the Abbey in that very contentious and rather bitter speech about the blood family looking over the upbringing of the boys, one would have expected them to see more of William and Harry. They don't, and one of the reasons, undoubtedly, is that what Earl Spencer said upset Prince Charles because it called into question his abilities as a father. Most fathers don't need another family, albeit the in-law family, to say, we shall be watching you, we shall be watching you. And it was a very unfortunate choice of words that he used.
Diana went home to Althorp, the Spencer family estate. She was buried on a tranquil island in a lake within the park of her ancestral home. Flowers were taken to her grave and scattered so that they will reseed and grow again. Her brother chose the island as her final resting place so that William and Harry would be able to visit her graveside in privacy. On Mother's Day, they sent flowers there. Earl Spencer opened Althorp and its Diana Museum to the public for 2 months a year. Diana's will had given the Spencer family the moral authority to help guide William and Harry to maturity, but the boys remained closer to their father than their uncle. In her final years, Diana and her brother had not been close.
They hadn't really seen eye to eye for quite a long time. They'd had their ups and downs, and the families didn't really meet very frequently in a year. So Charles Spencer's family and his children hardly knew William and Harry, as a result of which it is definitely known that the boys do want to be with their father on all occasions now. I mean, they go to Highgrove to see him when they can, and throughout the holidays they want to be with him. Also remember that Charles has deliberately gone out of his way to have his diary cleared for school holidays so he can spend as much time with the boys as he can.
When Charles is unavailable, Tiggy Leg Burke takes over. Often described as a nanny, she is from a courtier's family and is more like a big sister to the boys. Diana had resented her.
The public was very anxious while Diana was alive, and I think the public sided with Diana, who always felt that since she didn't need to engage a man to sort of play the role of father when the boys were with her, she never quite understood why Charles needed to engage a woman to play the role of mother when they were with him. However, they do like Tiggy. They like her a lot.
The other woman in their lives is Camilla Parker Bowles, whom Diana blamed for the breakdown of her marriage. Public opinion is still divided over her acceptance as Charles's partner.
I would hope that over time, whatever happens in terms of her public role or her public relationship with the prince, that if she is, as we all understand she is, such a good and wonderful friend to him and somebody with whom he feels so sympathetic and so close, that she could establish that kind of relationship with the boys.
She's brought up 2 children of her own. One suspects he asks her advice from time to time about things. In the recent years, in the crucial, recent, difficult years, when the boys were growing up and when it became clear, even to them, that they could not avoid knowing about the existence of this lady.
In July 1998, it emerged that William had agreed to meet Camilla. Charles had recognised the maturity in his elder son.
Only recently, in fact, has Charles had any form of formal discussion about the situation with William. William's attitude was, whatever makes you happy, Papa.
The Queen Mother shares the Queen's pride in Diana's boys. William in particular has grown close to the Queen, who has identified in her grandson the qualities required to make a fine king.
William's relationship's growing steadily closer to the Queen. He goes to visit her on Sunday afternoons for tea, and they can have great chats. I mean, she's invested all her hopes for the future in William. He's the boy we hope will be the saviour of the monarchy. I'm sure she'll want to teach him the value of the things that she values. You don't suddenly become king overnight. You've got to learn the ropes.
Whether William, given that all he's been through, might say in the next few years, who needs this? The people don't seem to want us anymore. We're going into Europe. What's the monarchy's role? It would be very human and people would understand if he said, I don't think I want to do this.
Can Diana's sons hope for personal happiness after their great loss?
Let's just hope for both their sakes that those boys are given the freedom to make marriages that really work, find girls that they really care about, who really care about them, who are prepared to put up with all the inconveniences of being royal, as well as the considerable perks and home comforts of being royal, but above all that these marriages don't end in divorce, like their parents, like so many royal marriages recently, because of the strains and because of the people in the House of Windsor being so cold to the people that marry into it. I think Diana's left enough with those boys for that not to be true of them.
Most boys like to get a girl just like their mother was. But for William, is there another girl out there who's, you know, maybe 12 or 13, 14 today, who's going to grow into somebody who's not only as beautiful as Diana, but as compassionate, as warm, have that magic with ordinary people?
As the years go by without her, Diana's sons will draw on her legacy of love and her caring for others. Earl Spencer said, Diana brought to their lives something quite different and wonderful. With Prince Charles's help, they will build on her foundation, making a more secure monarchy for the future. Diana's efforts will not have been in vain.